Dawn Janes-Bartley. I'm the president, risk manager, and insurance guru here at Minnesota Insurance Group. I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about workers' compensation, also known as workman's comp or work comp. Work comp in Minnesota is a requirement for almost every single type of employee status here. It doesn't matter how many employees that you have, how long you've had them, if you only have one, if they're part-time, they only work an hour a week, you're required to carry workers' compensation in Minnesota. Any questions about classification or exemption, you'd want to see somebody at the Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry. So in general, workers' compensation covers medical costs, medical care, and lost wages for employees injured on the job. So examples of that might be an employee ends up with a pain in their wrist from typing, maybe answering a phone, they have some neck pain. Those types of injuries would get submitted to work comp, and they would have medical care for surgery for carpal tunnel or PT for their back or neck injuries. If they end up with a disability and can't return to work, it would continue to pay for that work loss and then a settlement for not being able to return completely or partially. Other examples might be somebody in the automotive field that drops heavy piece of equipment and breaks a foot, or gets some debris in their eye and they have to go in. If they have a long-term eye injury that affects their work, then their workers' compensation would help fill that gap for their lost wages and their medical care. So a couple other examples might be if you work in a healthcare industry, or you might pick up influenza from somebody else in the office and you're out of work for 4 weeks. That medical care, that lost wages, that illness that could be documented from work would be covered under workers' compensation. If there is an employee who is killed in the line of work, somebody falls from a ladder, somebody's hit in a car and dies from a car accident, that workers' compensation also pays a benefit to that employee's family for that death. So I do stress to our clients all the time that Minnesota requires workers' compensation regardless of hours or employees. The penalty for not carrying work comp in Minnesota, even if there's no injury, is $1,000 per employee per week that the employer was uninsured. So I can't stress enough that making sure that if you have employees that you secure work comp insurance. One other area that we do see is misclassification of what would be employees into the label of subcontractor or independent contractor. Just please know that in Minnesota, if a sub or an independent contractor is injured on the job as part of their work, they can seek determination to be an employee under rules from the Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry. So the Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry can decide that that person was treated like an employee, even though you may have contractually made them an independent or subcontractor. So just be very, very careful with classification of anybody that's not an employee. Happy to answer your questions. I'm Dawn with Minnesota Insurance Group.